So, what kind of crazy shenanigans will this family get up to next? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host, Connie, and today we are here with episode 2 of Shameless. And yeah, last time we got just basically introduced to the family, introduced to concepts about the series and how messed up and questionable everything was with this entire situation. We have this poor family who are down on their luck and they live with a single father who is a drunk and a waste of space. Um, the oldest daughter has to basically take care of everyone, and she does a fair enough job. But it's clear that there's still a lot of issues going around that she's not enough to handle. We don't know exactly where their mom is. Like, there's not really anything said about that in episode 1. So I'm curious to know what the deal there is. But we meet other characters as well, including this guy who ends up helping the oldest daughter. I'm not remembering names right now, by the way. But this guy who helps her try to get her purse back from a snatcher. They end up becoming close and having crazy sex in the kitchen. Temporarily, it does end up getting interrupted, but like they were going at it, like Jesus. um, but yeah, it seems like there's a lot going on with one of the sons as well. Um, he is gay, but is just kind of realizing this. He's coming to terms with his sexuality, and his brother, who he's close with, has just found this out, but not from him. He found it out by discovering gay porn that he was holding on to. And so there's an entire plot point in the first episode about like trying to like understand that and him trying to figure out what was going on with his brother and make sure on it and test it out, I guess. Which is really weird and kind of upsetting to think about, like him testing to see if his brother really is gay. But you know, messed up family who clearly does not understand how to do social shit. And that's saying that's coming from someone who has a lot of social issues because of autism. I'm not great with social shit myself, but even I understand it's like, my dude, you don't do that. um, and we have a lot of members of the family as well who just haven't really gotten a chance to shine, so the first episode was clearly a lot to handle. There was a lot about it that was pretty. I don't know how to put it. It was just a lot. Let's just say that. And I don't know yet if this series is going to be for me. It's definitely something I'm going to have to continue to check out to really get a feel for here. Um, but I believe I said this last time, but we are watching still on net right off of Netflix because the site I normally use does not have a file for download. The site I normally use to download episodes that, you know, just because it's easier and allows for, you know, more consistency with recording. The site I normally use to download like live action stuff and movies from, it has the stuff on there, but it doesn't have like a download file like other movies and stuff would on that website. It's, I guess, just not linked to the right source page to download from, like File Moon or whatever it's called. It's not on there. So we unfortunately have no option but to watch it straight offline, which means there could be some lag issues. There might be some moments where it could even just straight up freeze. Um, it's always kind of a toss in the wind as to how it's going to work whenever we're recording off of directly off of the browser, basically. I wish it was more consistent. I wish there was something more I could do about it, but I can't. So, yeah. We'll go for this for now and just hopefully won't face many issues. But let us get this going and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, just to go over real quick again for what I said at the beginning of the reaction. When this was requested by Venom, this was requested to be a first impression. He wanted me to check out the first episode and go from there. And I had completely forgotten about that. Even though I had written it down, I somehow missed that. And instead, I just ended up pushing it forward as a regular series reward reaction. So I wanted to bring that up because it's I messed up on that and I didn't do this as I was requested to do. That's entirely on me. But let's talk about this. So this episode seemed a little more focused than episode 1, which makes sense considering episode 1 had a lot to introduce. This one was able to build off of what had already been introduced, allowing us to get a better understanding of even more how fucked up this family is, but seeing their interactions with each other in a more natural way, and seeing how things are going for them in various matters. Never been good at describing stuff, but you know what I mean, hopefully. So yeah, this episode we have a few different plot points that we kind of follow that go hand in hand. Frank comes home from, being drunk and being attacked by Karen's father at the bar. Because he's, kind of upset at being, headbutted to getting a bloody nose. He does the same thing to his own son. And after a conversation with Debbie, I think her name is. Again, the names take me a bit to get used to, especially with a notably sized cast of characters. But he ends up leaving, and he just ends up disappearing. So they're trying to find him, getting help from the neighbors and everything, their friends. And they end up learning eventually that he is in Canada. And eventually it's revealed that Steve kidnapped him while he was just hammered and took him there. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing. He meant to leave him in Detroit, but took him all the way to Canada instead. And he was doing this because he had seen how Frank was treating the family, physically attacking one of them, and thought he was trying to help. But as we see throughout the episode, that is not taken too well, especially by the oldest daughter. Again, names escape me. She doesn't take it too well because it's the entire idea is it's our family's problem. You shouldn't butt in. It's as fucked up as this family is, it's not your right to do something like this, to interfere in this way. And some people watching this might be like, oh, but he's getting a toxic, abusive person out of your lives, or trying to genuinely help you have a better situation. But the problem is that's not really going to help them. With the situation that they're in, taking away someone who's a big point of support for them, especially for the younger kids, is not going to help. That's not the way to do it. Like, I agree that Frank is abusive and neglectful and fucking terrible. He gets these disability checks, but he spends them all on beer. He spends them all on getting wasted rather than, actually paying for, bills and stuff. All of that is paid for by the kids, which it should not be. He is absolutely a terrible fucking person. But Steve is not a member of this family. If Lip or someone had done this, that would be one thing. Because that would go to show that the family is getting sick of it, that his kids are getting sick of him. But Steve butting in and trying to, take matters into his own hands without telling them, without even, consulting them about this kind of thing, is fucked up in its own right. It's just not something you do. Because here's the thing, and I think it's pretty clear that this family, that these kids do hold some level of love for their father still. As messed up as that is, they do, just naturally. And on top of that, it's a sense of normalcy that they kind of need. Taking that away from them, it would cause the entire situation to descend into chaos, and that would put them at greater risk for a lot of things. Again, it's not something they can just do. Even if things would be better with him gone. And I think the situation that comes in at the end here with him kind of staying with Karen's mom and everything, and, having that wild sexual relationship with her, which I'll get to, I think that's probably a more healthy way to handle, because he's still around. He's still in the area. Karen now knows he's there, so she can tell the others easily. And apparently this is something he's done before, based on what Lip said in the episode. He's apparently moved out before, but he always comes back. And it seems like part of that might be because of Debbie. It seems like he and Debbie might have like a pretty, actually healthier relationship compared to him with the other kids. Sorry for the lighting, by the way. It's very inconsistent out there today with the cloud cover and whatnot. But yeah, it's like, comparatively, he seems to actually bond with her a little more. And I think that goes with what he said in the episode. He said it to the father, to Karen's father. It's like, I believe so, at least. I think so. No, maybe it was someone else. God, who did he say it to? I can't think of it now. I'm not sure, actually. But he was basically saying, like, oh, kids are great when they're younger, but then they grow up and everything. I don't think it was to the mom, was it? I don't know. It's hard to remember every single little detail. But he says that, and it's pretty clear that it's like, basically, once they start talking back and start, like, having, a will of their own, that's when he loses interest and when they become distant from him. Because Frank wants control. Absolutely. He is the kind of person who wants control and wants others to just obey him and listen to him. He's the kind of parent who, if his children, like, have any kind of will of their own, they're not his children anymore. That's how he views it. If they speak out against him in any way or have any kind of difference of opinion, really. So, I'm gonna grab the ring light, by the way. So yeah, it's pretty wild how bad of a parent he is. But again, what Steve did wasn't right. And so, like, forcing Steve to be the one to go get him back was the right move. He needed to make that right. And it's also when he tried to, like, buy off. Geez, too bright. And my camera died. Hold on. I was worried that was going to happen. Give me just a second here to try and get it back up. Whoop. All right, no, we're not back. Okay, hold on. I see the green light, like, on my webcam going on. Like, it's trying to come back on, but it's, like, not sticking. It's not staying on. Which is what it needs to do. There we go. No. There we go. One more down. Okay. We should be good. But yeah. This episode really focuses in on how terrible of a person and father Frank is. But what Steve did was not okay either. It's like, it's just not the right way to handle that. And after coming back from Canada, we see Frank just kind of like getting angrier and more distant. He's like just trying to push away. He realized it was Steve who had brought him to Canada in the first place. And yeah, he's just not in a great place. But after speaking again with Karen's father, he ends up going to meet with the mom to apologize. And through it, he ends up getting a bath and having some kinky sex. At least twice that we saw. And it's just pretty implied that they're just starting that kind of relationship. Also, I love the idea that Joan Cusack, this sweet, soft-spoken character that she's playing here, is like a secret freak in the sheets. That she is like insanely kinky. I just really get a kick out of that joke whenever it's done in anything. When you have a character who is, again, very soft-spoken, very kind of cutesy, and just super likable and everything, pretty shy and quiet. But, like, when it comes to sex, like, they're the kinkiest motherfuckers ever. I don't know why. I just, like, really dig that joke, that idea. I honestly think it's a little cute. It's kind of just a cute idea. Also, that, like, dildo she had was massive. He definitely needed a cushion after that. But hey, like I said in the reaction, I wouldn't mind being dominated like that by Joan Cusack. I mean, she's hot. I've always kind of had a crush on her. Pretty much since School of Rock, since I first saw that when I was younger. Like, she was just... I just always liked Joan Cusack. The entire scene where they were, like, searching for Frank was pretty fun. Like, there was a certain level of camaraderie there between the family as well as, the friends and everyone. They just were all coming together to help find him. And I thought that was really cool. Because even though it's like everybody knows how much of a fuck up he is, everybody understands how terrible he is, they don't want him to be dead. Like, you even see that when, like, they're cheering when they find out that that body wasn't him. They would honestly rather see him, get help, get reformed. They don't want him to die. And there's something sweet about that, even if, again, it's like understood that he's horrifically terrible. It is nice, though, that they're like, they want him to get better, even if it's more than likely not going to happen. And of course, you had to have, like, even outside of just the kinky moments at the end, you of course also had to have some other, like, sexual stuff in here. The neighbors getting it on and everything during that scene, even though you didn't really see much of anything. You saw him, like, between her legs and all. And then there was the one scene where she's doing the cam work, which, by the way, perfectly fine. Like, it is perfectly reasonable for a grown woman or grown man or grown NB, anyone, to do sex work. And I will not put up with any shaming for that. She's in a relationship and her husband seems to know about it and seems to be okay with it as well, which is good. Because if he weren't okay with it, I would want her to leave him, honestly. There is nothing wrong with doing that. And also, just as a little side note, she has really nice tits. Just saying. I'm not going to hold back on that. She has really nice tits. But yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If it's completely your choice and you want to do it because you enjoy doing it or are doing it for money or whatever your reason, it doesn't matter. Whatever your reason, if you want to do sex work, do sex work. Go for it. This channel, I'm just saying right off the bat, this channel is a very supportive channel for that. I actively support sex workers and everyone who just wants to live their lives in the ways that they want, as long as you're not hurting anyone. Then all is fair game. And I will be behind you on that. This channel is meant to be a comfort zone for everyone, as long as what you're doing doesn't hurt anyone. I'm on your side, I guess you could say. So yeah, we support sex work here. And if you don't like that, fuck off. Honestly. Again, just not holding back on that. If you're just gonna bitch about me supporting sex work, I don't want you here. If it's not for you, that's fine. But don't bitch about sex workers. They have every right to do this. They are completely fine. Leave them alone. Let them live their lives. Anyway, enough ranting about that. Kind of went off on a tangent there. Yeah, we don't get a lot into the other brother here, Lip's brother that he's, close with, that Karen's mom thought was his twin. They're close in age, but not that close. I like even how Frank was confused by it. She's like, oh, the twins. He's like, yeah, no. They're not twins. But yeah, we didn't really get a lot with him about him being gay in this one. It was like mentioned briefly, but it wasn't like a focus of this episode. Which makes sense. We're not going to be able to focus on every plot line just as evenly in each episode. Though it is interesting seeing him pretend to be interested in the girl's tits and everything. because it's very clear, like, he was playing it awkwardly, the actor. He was playing it awkward to showcase that he's not actually interested but pretending. And I really like how he portrayed that. I think he actually did a good job at that, because it very much came across as someone pretending, as someone who has witnessed this in real life, and who has even, in some cases, been there. Though kind of the opposite route. I've had to pretend I wasn't interested in certain things for a long time. Because I'm pansexual. For those who somehow didn't know by this point, I don't hide it. I'm pansexual, so I find sexual interest in anyone. Um, and for a long time, I I was in the closet about that in multiple ways. Originally, I was just in the closet about, being any level of queer. But there was also a time where I was in the closet about being, sexually interested in people, because I was raised in a way that basically made me feel shame for having sexual interest in people. Gotta love Christianity, right? Um, but I eventually got over that and realized I'm not asexual. I was just, like, traumatized by the church. So, but I had to pretend like I didn't have interest, and other people have told me since coming out as pansexual that it was very obvious that the way I acted, like when I was pretending not to have sexual interest, made it very clear when I did. Um, so that it's pretty interesting that I've actually kind of been in a similar situation as we see here, except it's obviously a little different. I was pretending to not have interest while he's pretending to have interest in, well, something he's not interested in. Um, though again, to be fair, she has nice tits. um, yeah, it's just this episode again was a lot more focused, but I want to say here that this is a series that is very heavy. Like, it plays it in a kind of an almost comical, silly way, but it does get pretty, like, notably heavy, and it deals with topics that are hard to watch. And I've talked before about how this can affect me, because with my mental health issues and everything as they are, I sometimes have a hard time watching stuff that I guess you could say triggers my mental health issues to affect me in ways that I don't like. um, and this has happened with, like, Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is probably the biggest example of this, where I've had to take multiple breaks from the show because I was it was putting me in a very bad place emotionally and mentally. And eventually I stopped watching the show because of that. And I'm already starting to worry that this show might have the same effect on me. Because right now there's a lot that I'm enjoying about it, a lot that I'm just, having fun with. But you might have noticed during the reaction here, I was pretty quiet a lot of the time. There was a lot of time where I wasn't saying much of anything. And there were also a lot of times where I was, like, just, like, going, like, oh, okay, and stuff like that. Just, like, not really saying anything, but trying to, react in order to not have that much dead space. And that's what I was doing. I was actively trying to just say anything so that I wouldn't just be, like, quiet for, like, so long. And I was noticing that, like, very strongly while I was reacting. It was, like, starting to bother me a little bit because, I get very nervous about how I'm perceived sometimes. And so I was really starting to notice that I was being very quiet, and so that's why I started injecting that stuff. But also, I realized that it doesn't come across as like good commentary. It's very boring for you guys to watch when I'm not really saying anything, even if I am speaking. And at the same time, it's like I'm not really inputting anything into this. This is one of the reasons why a lot of reactors cut their reactions down on YouTube. I mean, also because of copyright bullshit, but a lot of them also do it because there's a lot of dead space in the reactions. Like, I believe, oh god, what are their names? Previewed. Jay and Adam. They even mention when they're like talking about like, oh, you can go to our Patreon to see the full reaction, and they even say like all the burps and farts and uninteresting parts. It's like it's a joke, of course, but yeah, they cut out the uninteresting parts. They cut out the parts that are just like kind of dead air or not really saying or doing anything. And I've obviously seen reactors react to the whole thing before. I used to follow Rough Senpai's Patreon, for example. And I would watch his One Piece reactions for the entire episodes. Um, but yeah, it's there are some spaces where it's dead, and when with my reactions, I tend to put up everything, and I try to react and commentate as much as I can. And sometimes there's going to be dead spaces, but I try to like cut that down. The only problem is with this, what I'm getting at here is that there seemed to be a lot, and I was becoming very increasingly aware of that during this reaction, and I'm worried about that going forward. I'm worried about this series maybe just not being the best for reactions. I don't know. The only thing I can say right now is that I am enjoying it to a point, but this is also, again, getting to a point where it's becoming increasingly more clear that it might be one of those shows that is hard for me to deal with just from an emotional and mental level. That it could mess up with it could just fuck with my mental health. And at the same time, I'm also seeing that it's like there's a lot that I just am not going to be speaking towards. So I'm kind of starting to wonder if this is a good idea as a reaction series here. And the thing is, like, even if I had reacted to the first episode as a first impressions like I was supposed to, I probably would have still continued past that point, as I did here. But I think as of now, I'm going to need to make a call that I'm going to see how next week's episode, how I feel about it then. We're gonna go on to we're gonna keep going on for the moment. We're gonna watch another episode next week, and I think I'm gonna have to make a determination at that point. We'll be 3 episodes in. That's like what, 1/3 of the season, almost. And at that point, I'll make a judgment call, determine if it's a series I think I'll be able to handle, just in terms of mental health. If I think it's a series that I'll want to continue reacting to in the first place. And yada, yada, yada. All of what I had already gone on about saying. Because it might be something that I would just prefer to watch on my own time, too. I mean, that's kind of what first impressions are for, but sometimes you might not always get that with the first episode. You might need to see more than one. And in this case, it kind of seems like that might be the case here. But we'll see. We'll see. So we're kind of treating this like an extended first impression right now. We're going to go up to the 3rd episode and make a determination at that point. So next week we'll get to that, and we'll see if we need to just stop it or if we can continue going on. Obviously, I don't exactly know. It's all going to depend on how the next episode goes, I feel. If I do end up dropping it, though, I'll probably still watch it on my own time whenever I can. I'm not always the best at that, but I'll try. But yeah. In the meantime, tell me what you thought of this episode down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.